For most of you, if you've had any kind of exposure to uh, uh, psychology, generally this hierarchy of needs has been a central point in talking about human motivation. So Abraham Maslow is the man who's associated with this, and he developed what he referred to as, that's an awful W, hierarchy of needs. And it has really dominated the landscape of understanding how we operate as humans from a motivational point of view. And so it expresses that the idea that until satisfied, some motives are more compelling than others. So one of the key points is basically some motives are more compelling than others. So for example, I would suggest, and I think you would probably agree, that the motivation to breathe, to have oxygen, is far outweighs your need to feel love and belonging, for example. And that's the idea here, is that these are on a gradient of things that are the most important. So at the base of the hierarchy, right down here, are physiological needs, such as for food and water. And that once these have been met, then I can then turn my attention to other things. And so we begin to march our way up this hierarchy of needs. And when you see people in dire situations, generally the first needs they attempt to meet are the physiological ones. Obviously, food and water are the key components to being able to survive. And all of us inherently know that. So once those are met, then we begin to talk about our need for safety. Feeling that the world is organized and predictable, the need to feel safe and secure. So from physio needs, we go then to more of a psychological need, if you will, in terms of safety, making sense of the world and how I understand it. And then to meet the uniquely human needs to give and receive love, to belong and be accepted, and to enjoy self-esteem. And what you basically see, if you've ever taken a cross-cultural trip or a missions trip, you will see, particularly in for example, the barrios outside of Caracas, Venezuela, probably one of the most grinding, poverty-stricken areas that I've ever seen. Another one is the favelas, which is very similar to the neighborhoods outside of Caracas, outside of what's the favelas? Outside of, not Rio, it'll come to me. But each one of these, the people are really quite busy to getting their physio needs met. They're in looking for food, and they spend most of their day looking for food. They are not worried nearly as much about their safety, although that's a concurrent need. But the whole idea of feeling loved and belonging is secondary compared to, oh, that's it. I knew it would come to me, Sao Paulo, Brazil, another place of a grinding poverty. And so beyond this, beyond all of these, from about here down, we really do march our way up. As one gets met, then we move on to the next one. And on occasion, we may get to self-actualization, living up to our fullest and unique potential. Maslow identified a very small number of people who he referred to as self-actualized people. And this is a driving force in many cases that is underlying counseling, for example. We attempt in counseling to try to help people gain a greater and greater level of self-actualization. If they are safe and secure, if their needs are met from a physiological point of view, and they're fairly well connected in life, then they're able to entertain this possibility. Near the end of his life, Maslow suggested that some people reach a level of self-transcendence. And essentially, what that means is that they see the world and engage the world in not a solely self-oriented point of view. And so at this level of self-transcendence, these people strive for meaning and purpose that is beyond the self, just for them. And what Maslow referred to this as transpersonal. The interesting thing about it, when you look at his descriptions, is that many of the people that we would point to as being self-transcendent would be distinctly spiritual people who had anchored themselves in a spiritual reality that allowed them to reach beyond themselves. So, for example, Mother Teresa. I think Maslow, although he never met her, would probably have said that she was in this transcendence point of view, or this transcendence level of development. And that very few people reach this point of development, if you will. But the key to understand, and the key concepts here to understand, is that once, and I'll just write this out, once one level of needs are met, we can then feel safe enough to move to the next level of needs. And again, this makes intuitive sense, but it is very much a part of the backdrop of what we begin to understand in terms of what actually drives people's behavior. When physiological needs are met, we instantaneously pay all of our attention to that. Once those are met, then we move on to other needs, essentially. So that's usually why in countries and places of grinding poverty, the whole idea of self-esteem is just ridiculous to them. Why would they think in those terms? Because their safety and physiological needs have never been met. And that's a key point in understanding Maslow's hierarchy of needs.